India will have probably the greatest growth rate, the fastest growth rate economically.
It's a logistical marvel.
The production capacity of India is one of the best assets the world has today.
Jamaica was able to secure its first life-saving vaccines from India.
India has more promise than any large country in the world.
This is one of the bright spots in the global economy right now, such a high growth rate.
21st century is going to be the Indian century.
India, the world's fastest growing major economy.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Nitin. I'm founder and CEO of Zerodha.
Okay. I'm Sudha Murthy. I'm an author.
I'm Vibha Dhawan, Director General of Cherry.
Yeah, so my name is Pavan Kumar Chandana. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Skyroot Aerospace.
India is really, like right now, the land of opportunities, right? As in the country demographically, like we have the highest number of 20 to 30 year olds on the planet. We are one of the few countries which is growing fast. We have a stable government. These are all good combination for a country to do well, and then in the sense also give opportunities for entrepreneurs to come and build something out. The government has put in so many enablers in place that has helped startups like us. In 2016 is when we could use Aadhaar for online onboarding, and then in 2018 is when we could start using UPI for payments. Our business grew from 60,000 to 1.2 crores in the next 6 years, right? And that has not been possible if not for the enablers of UPI or enablers, which is Aadhaar. So I think government has done enough. I think it's now the onus is really on the private side, like for entrepreneurs to actually come up to the moment and build, like I said earlier, resilient businesses. Being a businessman was almost looked down upon, listen, it's not a cool thing to do, right? But today, an entrepreneur is actually looked up to, right? So that transition has happened over the last 20 years. And I think that has also got to do with some of the messaging that happens, that we see from the government. For most developing economies around the world, you need more entrepreneurs coming in the country, creating more jobs. And so I think our government is doing quite a decent job at this. Everything in life is a trade, right? There are trade-offs. What is the maximum outcome you can have from your life for the effort you're putting in? And that today, I think, is in India, right? If you were to go to some other developed country, you can of course get a decent job, lead a decent life, and get access to all whatever, the infra and etc. But if you were to sit back 30 years from now and look at your life and say, where could I have had like a much larger outcome for the effort that I put? I think that country would be India.
What to tell about myself? Today it is a different India, the India where I grew up. There is a lot of change. They get more education, more options. Their opinion, उनका राय होता है शादी में, and they are more assertive now. And that is the one change I have seen with my own eyes, how women were subdued, were not educated, only graduated. Today they are in forefront. I joined engineering college in 1968. There were no girls in the engineering college. Today, when I look back, I said, how was it? You can see 30%, 40% girls are there in engineering college. 50 years back, I worked with the House of Tata. When I go back today and see the factory, there are about 700 to 800 lady engineers, and they are on the shop floor manufacturing cars. So it's a great change. So I have seen India changing continuously, better and better and better as far as women are concerned. When government policies are made for such causes, so the women they get loans comparatively better. I have not seen a village where nobody has a cell phone, everyone has. And people rarely I see using the firewood, everybody has a gas connection. Everybody has a bank account and ATM card. Bank account is so important. So I have seen this Beti Bachao or any policy with respect to women have affected. Women are normally hardworking. They are better managers. They are more balanced compared to men. For a country like India, there are many ways India has achieved and can be achieved, technology-wise, medical-wise, pharmacy-wise. There are so many, or like antariksha-wise. But I will look at in a much basic way. I feel in my country, a child should get 3 times a day meal, 3 dresses, education minimum up to 12th class, and they should have a skill in that village or in that area which can fetch him a job or her a job.
Really speaking, when people start talking about circular economy, I always say that is something which was engraved in our DNA. I remember my father always telling me, why do you have to switch on lights of every room? Clothes were never discarded. Travel by train, go to a place, enjoy, use public transport as much as possible, and so on. The Prime Minister, when he made commitments in Glasgow in terms of the use of renewables and going net zero by 2070, was a very bold, ambitious statement. And that is what essentially is being done, whether in terms of making regulations, whether it is consciousness at the individual level. So while we are doing this exercise, like whether you look at energy conservation bill, where we are talking about building above a certain size that must have component of renewable integrated in the building itself, or we are looking at subsidies which are being provided for generation of renewable energy at the household level. If we look at India as a country, we are blessed with plenty of sunshine. So the cost of production of solar in our country perhaps is half of that in Europe. So therefore we will become far more competitive. The hydrogen mission, which was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister, that again, it is not just to meet the energy requirements of India, we are talking of exporting hydrogen, because green hydrogen is going to be cheaper in India compared to many other countries, and therefore we will come in the category of exporting nations. Very fact that government is investing a lot of money, they are very serious about new technologies. As a country, we have everything. We have young population. Our people are next to none. We have innovative, hard-working minds, which can be in any field. Young nation, innovative people, hard-working people, and the market exists. So all the ingredients are here to go for renewable energy. And therefore, we can show the way to the world how the development can take place in a sustainable green way. One thing which I would like to bring on table is the Prime Minister's initiative Life. That is extremely important, because what doesn't get mired never get controlled. Being a growing nation, we have an opportunity to follow a greener path and thus show to the world development will happen, but in a cleaner way.
India's space journey started 60 years ago, almost in 1960s. Right? It is almost like more than 6 decades of ecosystem built in the country. That is number one. And recently a major change which happened is the opening up of space sector to private players. We have launched India's first privately developed rocket to space. It was a historic moment for the country that a private sector was able to build and launch a rocket to space. From now, like over 140 startups are there just building space products from India for the world, which is an amazing shift in the last 2 to 3 years. And this change in policy environment, which is very important for new sectors, very emerging sectors like space, which is also very linked to being very strategic to the country. So for example, recent Chandrayaan-3 landing made every Indian proud, putting us among the top 4 nations globally. So it shows the prowess of India in the global stage, and also it's a very large $500 billion business globally. The next decade is for India, but we are also very clear that the next century is India's century. So I think this amount of young talent no country in the world has, I think that is the fuel of our future, and I think undoubtedly the next century is going to be India's century. I mean, the estimate is that we will be among the top 2 GDP nations in the next 50 years. Right, so I think that dream is going to come soon. Yeah. Even 5 years ago when we started Skyroot, I think the process was very, very simple, straightforward, professional, very quick. It just took few days for us to register and kickstart our activities. Now the state governments are competing, and then like each state wants to have its own emergence, and the nation is going like soaring high, across the global stage. I think it's the best place to have business, especially for startups. I think Chandrayaan-3 is like one of the biggest achievements of India as a nation. Because considering that we became the first nation in the world to successfully land a spacecraft near the south pole of the moon, which is considered very difficult terrain to land. It's a phenomenal engineering challenge to actually achieve a spacecraft to successfully land near the south pole of the moon. Nobody has done in the world, and India does it very gracefully. Unprecedented growth rates in the GDP in the next decade is what I would see, looking at how it's like we're all prepared to grow very fast, building top class infrastructure in the next 10 years, which is happening right now at very rapid pace, and it is going to get achieved in the next 10 years, and that will set a stage, a foundation for our further growth in the coming decades, and put us among the top 2 nations globally.